If you've ever plugged your numbers into a retirement calculator and got advice to stick with the 4% rule or some other safe withdrawal rate, you need to understand something. Those calculators are designed for averages, not for your actual life. They don't account for when you want to spend your money, how flexible you can be, or what happens if the markets move. And if you follow them blindly, you could either run out of money too soon or leave hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table during the years you're actually healthy enough to enjoy it. If you've been relying on calculators to tell you how much you can spend in retirement, you need to see this. Hi. I'm Jay Forgione, president of Summit Retirement Solutions. In this video, we're going to talk about why retirement calculators often give you wrong answers. The three most common approaches retirees take when spending down their portfolios, and better framework for making withdrawal decisions that actually account for real life. If you find this helpful, please take a second to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Let's get into it. Let's talk about why calculators fail. Here's the problem with most retirement calculators. They're built on the assumptions that don't match reality. They assume you'll spend the same inflation-adjusted amount every single year for 30 years. They assume markets will perform at average historical returns. And they assume you'll never have health emergencies, or never need to help your kids financially, or never adjust your lifestyle based on what's actually happening in your life or in the markets. Those assumptions work great in a spreadsheet. They don't work great in real life. The second issue is that calculators are designed to avoid failure at all costs. They're optimizing for one thing, making sure you don't run out of money. That sounds responsible, but here's what it actually means. Most calculators are going to tell you to spend less than you probably could, especially in your early retirement years when you're most active and healthy. The result, a lot of retirees end up in their late 70s or 80s with portfolios that have grown significantly, realizing they underspent during the years they could have actually used that money. So if calculators aren't the answer, what is? Let's talk through three of the most common spending approaches retirees actually use, and then I'll show you a better way to think about this. Approach number one, the set it and forget it retiree. This is the retiree who follows the 4% rule or something similar. You take 4% out of your portfolio in 1 year, adjust that dollar amount for inflation every year, and stick to it no matter what happens. The appeal here is certainty. You know exactly what you're going to get every year. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to adjust. But here's the trade-off. This approach assumes worst-case scenarios for 30 years. It's designed to make sure you never run out of money, ever, even if you retire right before a major market crash and live to 95. For some retirees, that's the right call. If you value certainty above everything else, if you'd rather leave a large inheritance and the risk of running out, this can work. But most retirees don't realize what they're giving up. Because this strategy is so conservative, it backloads your spending into your later years of life. You're spending less in your 60s and 70s when you're healthy and active, and more in your 80s and 90s when your lifestyle has naturally slowed down. And here's the other issue. This approach assumes you'll execute perfectly for 3 decades. No deviations for emergencies, no extra help for family, no flexibility. In practice, that almost never happens. Approach number two, the reactive spender. This is the retiree who doesn't follow any formal plan. They just pull money from their portfolio as they need it. Some years they spend more, some years they spend less. They rebalance when they remember to. They adjust based on how they feel about the market or what's going on in their life. The advantage here is total flexibility. You're not locked into anything. You can adapt on the fly. The disadvantage is you have no way of knowing if you're on track. You might be withdrawing too much without realizing it, or you might be too cautious and underspending without knowing you could have afforded more. This approach works if you have significantly more than you'll ever need. But for most retirees, flying blind like this creates unnecessary stress and often leads to either overspending or underspending throughout retirement. If you're realizing you've been making withdrawal decisions without a clear framework, or you're not sure if you're on track, that's exactly the kind of uncertainty we help retirees with here at Summit Retirement Solutions. Click the link in the description and schedule a conversation. Approach number three, the strategic adapter. This is the retiree who uses a dynamic withdrawal strategy with guardrails. Here's how it works. You set up a baseline withdrawal amount based on your portfolio size and your income needs. Then you establish an upper and a lower guardrail, specific portfolio values that trigger adjustments. If your portfolio grows beyond the upper guardrail because markets are doing well, you increase your spending slightly. If your portfolio drops below the lower guardrail because of markets are down, you reduce spending temporarily. The key difference here is that the adjustments are predefined. You're not making emotional decisions in the moment. You're following rules that you set in advance based on actual portfolio performance. This approach allows you to spend more in your early retirement years when you're healthy and active, while still protecting against running out of money if markets underperform. And here's what the research shows. Retirees using this type of strategy can often spend significantly more in their first decade of retirement compared to the rigid strategies like a 4% rule, sometimes $200,000 to $300,000 more, without materially increasing their risk of running out. Why? Because they're adapting to reality instead of planning for the worst case scenario every single year. So which approach is right? It depends on what you value most. If certainty and leaving an inheritance matter more to you than maximizing spending, the set it and forget it approach may be the right fit, but understand you're likely giving up significant spending power in your most active years. If you have more than enough and you're comfortable making decisions on the fly, the reactive approach can work, but you need to be disciplined about monitoring your plan and making sure that you're not drifting off course. But for most retirees, especially those with about $1 million or more saved, the strategic adapter approach tends to make the most sense. It balances flexibility with structure, and it allows you to spend more when markets cooperate, and it protects you when they don't. A framework for making this decision. Here are 3 questions to ask yourself. First, how important is certainty to you? If knowing exactly what you'll get every year matters more than spending flexibility, lean towards a more conservative structured approach. If you're comfortable with some variability, a dynamic strategy may be a better fit. Second, how much margin do you have? If your portfolio is significantly larger than what you'll need, you have more room to be flexible. If you're closer to the line, you may need a tighter guardrail and more frequent adjustments. Third, how do you want to spend your retirement? If you want front-loaded experiences and travel while you're healthy, a dynamic approach gives you more freedom to do that. If you're naturally more conservative and your spending will stay consistent, a fixed strategy may align better with your preferences. Retirement calculators are helpful, but they're not retirement plans. They don't account for goals, your flexibility, or how your life actually unfolds. The spending strategy that works isn't the one with the best numbers on paper. It's the one you can actually execute for 30 years while living in retirement. If you're approaching retirement and you want to build a withdrawal strategy that fits your goals and gives you confidence in your plan, let's connect. Click the link in the description below, schedule a conversation, and we'll walk you through the situation and help you figure out what makes sense to you.